Strong, strong families, yeah. Good friends. Strong families.
Welcome to the first episode of Good Friends, Strong Families. We are your hosts, Angela and Anna, and we're going to bring you a blend of friendship and expert family coaching. Our journey together spans nearly 2 decades, proving that the path to raising connected, resilient families is often walked best with a good friend by your side. This podcast is our way of extending that friendship to you. As family coaches, we're equipped with research-based strategies for effective parenting, and we're excited to share these insights with you. Our discussions together are heartfelt, they're genuine, just as they would be in our own personal conversations with one another. And we really aim to be that friend who shares in your laughter, your tears, always guiding you back to the heart of what matters most, building stronger, more connected families. To kick off this series, we thought it fitting to share one of our initial discussions about the profound impact of friendship on family life. It's really a conversation that lays bare our passions and experiences, really covers a lot of the struggles and victories that we've encountered. So join us as we delve into this candid exchange, giving you a glimpse into the essence of our message. Let's dive in. Adding to the frustration that you already have with issues with your partner makes it really hard. But anyway, the point is that one, people don't always have someone to talk to, and I have always had someone to talk to. And two, that even if you have someone to talk to, people don't always know where to get resources on parenting in particular.
Right.
And for me, being a mom has been, maybe I'll say, like, the most responsible thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, somebody else could pick up my slack at work, or like, could pick up my slack in all the other areas of my life, but like nobody else can parent my kids. I'm all they get. So I think having had you all these years to be somebody that has walked alongside me as a parent has been, I almost want to like give you as a gift to the world. Like, everybody needs an Anna. That's why I always call things like the good girlfriend stuff, like without a good girlfriend, I don't know how I would have survived growing my kids.
Right. I think a lot of things based on what you were just talking about, but I feel like the unique thing is, I feel like it's really common to maybe have a lot of venting going on. And so I feel like a lot of people think because they can sometimes vent to even the world, really, with social media. I feel like that's where a lot of people have turned. They just put it out there and they think that that's productive, versus whenever we talk, it is, even if we're in venting. Right. No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, even if we're in one of those situations where like one of us is dealing with something, 9 times out of 10, spoiler alert, it's really something we're dealing with ourselves, right? There's people in our lives, so it spills over a little bit, is that we do our fair share of like, this is how I'm feeling, this is why I feel this way, maybe, or, but we always point each other back to our family. So it's like, if I come to you and I'm like, he just doesn't get this, or whatever it is, right? And then you're like, okay, but it's not, the goal is always to be like, okay, but how can you resolve that? And first, I think we have to find some resolution within ourselves. I feel like that's what you helped me do, is like, okay, I needed to work that out so that I can work it out with him or my children or whoever, right? Versus just venting and you going, yeah, I totally agree. Like, they're idiots.
They are not. They're not. Yep. She's being a jerk. Or, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we always help each other get full circle. And then I was thinking, I totally agree. Like, as much as they say, like, it takes a village, and I do believe you're a part of my village, I still am the only mom my children have. And so it is definitely a responsibility that is very sobering.
I like that word for it. I think I also thought, growing up, I thought, well, being a parent isn't as big a deal. And in some ways it's not. I mean, I'm just thinking back to like when our kids were little and we used to do, I remember one time hearing somebody say, try not to say no so much, like those lessons, those early lessons that we had as parents, they seemed so much easier. And before I was a parent, first of all, I was a better parent before I was a parent.
Definitely.
That was a fabulous
little ribbon winner right here. You have a problem with your kid? I'll solve it.
Come on.
I have a problem with my kid. Help.
Right. I always thought, like, how could parents be like, I know exactly what to do. Why wouldn't you do it? And then I had kids and I was like, what in the world? But when they were younger, things like, I remember specifically hearing somebody say, don't say no so much, like try not to say no all the time is like your default word. And so I really took a lot of those lessons to heart, because I didn't know how to parent. I spit my own tongue. I didn't know how to parent. I actually remember walking out of the hospital. I've heard that a lot of people have this experience of walking out of the hospital the first time with a baby and really feeling like that that hospital staff is missing the mark if they think that I'm responsible for this human.
What's the vetting process here?
Why are you giving this to me? Nobody's told me what to do next. But I remember as they were little, I was thinking about like those early lessons and then like trying those on for size. Like, okay, well, let me just try and say yes more often, But then what happens, I look back on our lives and I think, gosh, those were like the least of our troubles, But what happens then is then you hit against something that you don't know what to do about. And then if you don't have a good way to learn how to fix it or, and while simultaneously, because Bruno and I determined that we were going to stay together, like whatever, we're going to get married to this guy. We swore we'd never use the word divorce. And it wasn't because we had like, great skills, like kind of on the contrary, you did not have great skills, but we just determined we were not going to get divorced. And we were going to stay together. And so that just meant that we had to learn. And so, but at some point you get to a point in your life where you're like, I need somebody to talk to because some of this stuff is really hard.
I think it's so interesting because I feel like we know mothers have an instinct and a gut and an intuition. And we know that, but I feel like what we don't always know or understand is that our ability to listen and really hear and discern and trust is shaped by our life experiences. And so there's been times when like I've had that like, oh, I don't think I should do this or I think I should do that. And then I don't trust myself. And so you don't listen. And then, thankfully, sometimes those are just small incidental things. And then you're like, oh, that really was something that I should listen to. And so I feel like that's kind of just parenting in general. Like you are always learning as you go. But at the same time, I remember reading books and things. And I don't know about you, but like I would read a book and I learned pretty quickly that like I'm not going to agree with everything, even within the same book, even if I overall enjoy that book or agree with that book, there's still going to be things that I'm like, yeah, that's just not going to work for me, or it's not going to work for my family, or it's not going to work for my child.
And so one skill somebody talked about in a book, and I won't say the skill because I don't even know which book they got this from, but that particular skill that they used, I thought, that feels aggressive. I would never do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
But they were like totally bought into this idea. And they were people that I loved and respected. And I absolutely thought they were great parents. And so I think that's the other thing is like, just because somebody else uses it doesn't mean you have to, but just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's wrong. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But I was like, that is an aggressive move that I would never do. Yeah.
Right.
It's funny.
Yeah. I feel like overall, I've learned a lot more grace for myself and for other people and I think the things that like I learned about parenting with my first kid, versus the next batch of children, it was like, this worked so well the first time.
I did have them in batches too, which is kind of funny.
But you know what I mean? Like I think it's just so interesting because we are constantly growing as, well, humans, but like as a mom, like who you are as a mom to an infant isn't going to be who you are as a mom to a toddler or whatever. Like, I feel like, yes, you have your core values, but you get a clearer, more rich picture as you go along. And you're also learning your kid. Your kid is learning who they are. And then like, forget about throwing in another kid and then who they are. And then you're also just, it's not just your parenting, mothering journey that is evolving. It's all the other aspects of life that are shaping you as you go too. So the mom that I am now is definitely not the mom I was 18 years ago. Oh my gosh, that's really scary to say.
That's really scary to say.
Like 10 years ago, but it's true even 10 years ago. It's like, you know, add another kid or add other life experiences or whatever. And so you're, you know, I don't know. I feel like it's cliche and I've heard it a lot, but you know, when people talk about like loving kids the same, it's like, no, I love all my kids an equal amount, but
it's very different.
They're different children. They need love spoken to them in different ways. And then the relationship that I have with each of them is going to be slightly different. And then the things that they need at different times of their life, even, but just even as their individual person, they, you know, so it's like if I just tried to be a cookie cutter and loved them each the same, I would fail them.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally
feel like that also speaks to like just our personal journey as a mom in this life.
I always say that I guess the best I ever learned, is that even a sentence? But the most I ever learned about parenting was actually not from my kids, it was from my stepkids. Because one of the things that you have to do if you're the parent of a stepchild is you have to parent on purpose in a way that a natural parent doesn't have to parent. A natural parent, they're going to love you. They're going to adore you. They're going to, you know, and the kids just love their parents. I mean, parents, you could be a horrible parent and your kids are still going to love you. You know what I mean? Like it's just, it's natural to them. And so I learned so much more about parenting kids as a step parent. And I don't know, I mean, look back on my life and I think, man, I was a stepmom for years and years and years before I was a natural parent. I think this is probably true of a lot of different sort of parenting relationships. Like, you know, if you're doing it in a way that is trying to maybe evolve or get yourself, get better or, you know, connect more or whatever, you're really thinking through that individualness of every kid. But I really liked what you said about how you're evolving not only in your relationship with your kids, but also as a person. Because I remember, and you and I have talked about this before, I remember, especially when our youngest was a baby and I wasn't working. And I really thought that was going to be, like, I didn't expect that. First of all, I didn't expect that I was going to stay home. And then I did. I was like, oh, I'm not going back to work. I never want to put you down. That's going to be awkward when I'm sitting in an office with a 4-year-old on my lap. Hi, everyone. So I didn't expect that. And then the other thing I didn't expect was that I was going to have to go back to work. I mean, that happened pretty quick, just within a few short years. And then I had to go back to work. And here I was trying to learn who this human was, trying to parent this human, trying to give him every, you know, family experience I could. And then I had to go back to work and do a really, like, a hard job, you know? And so I was having these experiences outside of parenting that were also impacting parenting, but then also impacting my relationship with my husband. And here's one of the things that I think is maybe sad, is that we as a society don't necessarily value the opinions or experiences of people who've gone through some of the tough stuff. And so we don't lean into those people who've already gone through those things because we think well, I should be able to do it all, or I should be able to know it all, or that was a different generation. When I should have leaned into women who'd been there before me. And I think that would have helped me to understand that I wasn't being a bad mom by going back to work, that my kid was not going to be broken, that, my relationships were going to be okay as long as I did some key things. And as long as I realized that it was a season or a phase. If I had done all that, I probably would have had a little bit of a better experience.
Yeah. Well, I think about like when I was talking about like, there is a level of instinct or, just that gut intuition that I think moms have. But I think that's more, at least in my experience, like you were talking about, like with a natural child, like you just instinctively love them and even then it grows, right? Like,
yeah.
But I was thinking about like, okay, what did people do before our generations? It's like, well, I feel like historically they did have stronger senses of communities and they were learning generationally and what that looked like. And so like now I feel like we have a lot of access to a lot of information, but sometimes it's like, how do you know where to look? Because information is everywhere, but how do you know what information you want and what information you need when you need it? And I think that's where, like you're saying, like friendship. And it's funny, when you first started talking about our friendship, I was first blown away by how long we've known each other.
A long time.
But I was thinking back to that time and how we started out as a group. And I was like, oh my gosh, like some of it's just honestly a blur.
Yeah. Well, and we were also sleep deprived.
Yes.
You probably more than me. You moved on and had a bunch more kids. I moved on and had a career, but we both still had those kids growing in those ages. Yeah.
But what's funny, when you mentioned sleep, one of the first interactions I remember with you, as far as parenting goes. So Lucio's what, like 6 months? No, not even, like 4 or 5 months younger than Melissa.
Right.
And they were babies when we met. So I remember you asking me how I get her to take a nap or whatever. And I was like, I put her in her crib and she goes to sleep. And I just remember
you needed more than that.
You going, oh, like that was the most unhelpful tip.
Thanks for the response. Thanks.
And then I was thinking, fast forward 2 years later, I get twins that don't believe in sleeping. So I was like going back to like my own advice and going like still very unhelpful to the mom who can't just put their kid down and have them take a nap.
That's hysterical. I remember when they were that age and just being exhausted. I mean,
I remember the frustration that probably because of sleep deprivation, but I remember like just thinking, I'm doing everything the same. Why isn't it working? And I think my husband disagreed. Like he thought there must be something I'm not doing the same because it should work. And if you're not working, you might be missing something. And I'm just
feel
like,
free.
Oh man, what sleep deprivation does. Yeah.
Those were good years though. I think that's the thing that you don't realize when you're in the middle of it. You know how like they always say like, cherish your childhood. This is going to be the best you ever get or whatever. Like your teen years are going to be fabulous. I think I think there were moments in time where I enjoyed the journey. And then there were moments in time where I was like, oh my God, please let this end, please let this end, please let this end, But if you can, I remember one of the most helpful things anyone ever told me in parenting is that it's all a season. It's all a season.
Yeah.
And that the seasons change. And so if you know that the seasons change and you're in the middle of winter and you're freezing cold, you know that eventually it's going to be spring, then it just gives you more hope that eventually it's going to be spring. And the seasons do change and we change and our kids change and they grow and they, and
there's hope in that. And then sometimes there's also like, if it's going good now, it's probably not going to go so great soon. And if it's not going so great now,
that is like a word. Right, the way going really well, right? If it's going really well and people are like, there's going to be a change, you're like,
I don't know if you've seen, I'm sure you have. It's not, every once in a while it will come back up and kind of make, there somebody else will do a spin, but it's somebody narrating like about how like you only get, 5 short years with your young child. And like, and I just always like seasons and stuff I can accept, but like the whole, if you miss it, you miss it. And you're just SOL. I hate that because I was very much in a season of like, it's literally a blur. Like I'll see pictures. One, I don't think I personally was even capable of taking many pictures for a while, but I'll see like clips, videos of like my husband that and I'm like, I didn't even know you did that. And why did you do that? But also thank you that you did that. Because like
my hair,
I'm just like, it is literally, I don't remember if the only memory I have is that picture. You know what I mean? Like sometimes we confuse our actual memories with like pictures.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, wow, like, I don't know how we did it, but we did it. And we're on the other side. And then I just hope and pray that didn't do too much damage in the process. Because we clearly were not perfect.
No, it's funny you said that because that was something that, especially, going back to this comment you made about being a step parent, we had a multitude of kids. I mean, they were just everywhere. And the thing that I loved, and I alternately loved and did not love about my husband, the things I loved and did not love, but same thing, is that he was always the person that was like fun, Mm-hmm. And so like, that's great if like you want to go camping, and he did a lot of that, like he's the person that's going to like roast up in the truck and go. He's also the person that's going to be like, oh, we have this much money. We could either pay the bills or we could go camping. Let's go camping. It's like,
yeah.
And so like, but I look back on those years and so, I did, the one thing that I did that I'm glad that I did was lean into his fun. I certainly made sure that the gas bill was paid before we went camping, but I did lean into his fun, so that we did have some fun. I just don't remember it all. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know if my memory is better or worse than other people's memories, but I just don't remember a lot. And so sometimes people will say, I literally have been to places that people are like, oh my gosh, remember when we went to blah, blah, blah. And it's like a pretty significant event. Right. And I'm like, no, you don't remember that. You don't remember when we like flew in an airplane right to this location. Did we? No. So bad fun. But so the thing is that I always go back to that saying of like, how does it go? Like people don't care. I forget how that goes, but anyway, whatever. The idea is that our kids their memories might not be like specific, but it's a feeling or a thought or an emotion or
the one that I'm thinking of is like people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah. And that's a feeling. That's not that's like I feel that way about, you know what I mean? And I think that that's how our kids feel about us. And we know from research, I mean, really getting back to the discussion of like why we even do this, we actually do parenting classes. But so we know from research that really kids are so much more resilient than we think. And researchers have taken specific situations that you and I as parents are like ashamed of, or, like I remember one in particular where I got really angry at one of the kids because we had a wood burning stove and he took the kitchen sponge. We're having like Saturday clean day. And he took the kitchen, like a wood burning stove, the outside gets like black, and he took the kitchen sponge and he washed it with the sponge and it was all black. And I hit the roof. I don't even know. I wasn't even, but I did. And I got really angry. And so I felt horrible about that but I remember, of course, I went back and I apologized and I'm so sorry. But when you do that, you feel bad, they feel bad. And so, but I was reading this research study not too long after that they will take specific situations specifically and ask kids about them, situations exactly like that, where a parent feels bad, but then they go back to the kids. And do you know the majority of the time, kids don't actually even remember that specific situation? What they remember is what it felt like to be a kid.
Right.
I felt like I was valued. I felt like I was. So, that's so unless you're giving them these like constant specific situations where you're not supporting or, it's this constant whatever, they don't remember that. There's no reason to feel bad anyway. So let's see. So what should we talk about? Parenting. I wonder if we should do more of this where, I wonder if we should start talking about like parenting through the ages. Do you know what I mean? Like parenting a younger kid versus parenting an older kid, or maybe we could talk about things like family dynamics. We could talk about that, like what that's like, or even like how to cultivate. I think that's another thing that people need to know is like how to cultivate. Of course, we could do that over time, but how to cultivate relationships with other people to help support. Because you actually talked about something really important. I mean, this idea that you would, as a friend, be the kind of friend that would listen, but then also, I mean, we need events. So you don't want to call your friends and have your friend be like, listen, you should, yeah, that's dumb. I would be
But I feel like we always find our way there. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, for sure.
Gosh, what would you tell somebody? Like, what advice can you give to somebody about finding your person or a group of, we started out as a group. We didn't know we would be the only two standing up.
No, we have no idea. No, I think that's really good.
But we kind of fell into each other's laps, you could say, right? We met through church. And so it's like, okay, we knew that with all our differences, we at least had some common values or beliefs, right? And I feel like that is, I guess, the gift of modern world. You can literally connect with anybody anywhere, and you can find very specific groups, of shared interests. You can find very general parenting things online. There's, you know what I mean? But how do you know when you have found somebody that you can really, I don't even know. I mean, trust doesn't.
Well, not only that, but like, go back to the beginning part of the conversation. We had a lot of friends. Well, friends, it really has been a pleasure getting to share a bit of our story. And now you understand why we wanted to start a podcast and share with you some of the really vital topics that we know both as family coaches as well as parenting adults ourselves. In our next episode, we'll explore another vital topic in strengthening our families. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a 5-star review, share it with a friend. We'd also love to hear your thoughts on today's topic. Join the conversation on our Instagram or leave a comment. And thanks everyone for tuning in.